His scientific journey started with the privilege of working with the endangered giant clams, which led to him developing a passion for marine conservation. On the project to restock giant clams to Singapore waters, Ambert was in charge of daily husbandry and management of the giant clam hatchery. He also mentored many students conducting experiments to learn more about the biology of giant clams. Ambert also heads the outreach efforts of the Experimental Marine Ecology Lab and Re-Ecology Lab, sharing his experience on his work with giant clams, and hope that it will inspire more conservation efforts for other marine animals. Okay. Oh, sorry, all right, so this is about him. Okay, so now next. Okay, let me introduce the young panelists. Now we have with us today Dawisha Inshira. She's 12 years old from Yumin Primary School. Hi, Dawisha, say hello, wave to everyone. Okay, Dawisha loves nature and she does lots of gardening at home. She thinks that marine habitat is beautiful and filled with wonderful and colorful marine animals. She is concerned about how microplastic is consumed by the marine animals, thus affecting their health and ultimately affecting ours. She wants to raise awareness about marine animals that are in danger. Okay, next we have Luke. Okay, Luke, say hello to everyone. Now, Luke is 12 years old. He's from Yumin Primary School. Now, Luke loves plants and is curious to know how they had evolved. Dinosaurs have always fascinated him since he was very young. Now, one of Luke's favorite places he has visited is Japan, and he loves to eat sushi. He asked if environmental factors have caused some species to be aquatic. He is also curious to find out how rising sea levels is affecting marine life. Right, next, our next panelist is Megan Chu. Megan, wave to everyone. All right, Megan is 7 years old. She is from Patron Public School. Now, Megan's favorite subject is English, and she likes to read and bake. She is interested in marine animals because she thinks they are beautiful creatures on planet Earth. She wants to learn more about them. Okay, our fourth young panelist is Siobhan Louis. Okay, Siobhan, wave to everyone. Siobhan is 8 years old. She's from Paya Lebar Methodist Girls Primary School. Siobhan's hobby is reading, and she likes to read Enid Blyton's story about farm animals and how the children went on adventures in the forest. Her favorite subject is English, and her most memorable place is the Legoland. She is interested in marine animals and wants to find out how sharks and fishes breathe through their gills and how clams can quickly shut their shells when they sense danger nearby. Okay, next panelist, Valerie. Valerie, wave, say hello to everyone by waving. Now, Valerie Liao, she is 11 years old from Yumin Primary School, and Valerie likes English and she enjoys drawing. She finds marine creatures interesting as they can breathe underwater. She also wants to know more about them so as to learn how to protect and keep them happy. All right, our last young panelist, okay, last but not least, is Livia Sharani. Livia, wave to everyone. Okay, Livia is 11 years old. She's from Marymount Convent School. Now, Livia's hobbies are playing badminton, swimming, and reading, especially reading magazines. She thinks reading non-fiction magazines has helped to answer some of the many questions she has about science. She is curious and excited to find out more about the fascinating lives of sea creatures. She wonders about the effect of climate change on them. Okay, so now we have our 6 young panelists. Now I will hand the time over to Ambert. Ambert, over to you. Thank you.
Hey, hi, everybody. Thanks, Cheryl, for the introduction. Let me set up and share my screen first. Can you all see my screen? Okay. Very happy to be here today, to be invited virtually for this session with all of you. Welcome to the Giant Clam session within this week. I think it'll be the most exciting and best session. Yeah. So I'm joined today with 6 very bright, young, aspiring marine biologists. And I believe everyone is very eager to hear what they have prepared to share with all of you today. So my name is Amber. I will be the moderator for today, and I will be kind of framing the whole session as it goes along. So without further ado, I will begin by giving you a short introduction about myself, what I do, and the work that I have been involved with especially related to the giant clams. So when we talk about giant clams, we really think about its conservation status. Like, we really need to protect these clams. And so hopefully for today, I hope to share with you, and hopefully the 6 young panelists will be able to enlighten you on why these clams are so important. Why are they so adorable? Why do we need to protect them? And what can we do to protect them? Yeah. So as a marine biologist, as a researcher, these are the kinds of work that I do in the field. So I'm not just a normal scientist that sits behind the desk and do experiments in the lab. I tend to go out to various kinds of habitats and fields. So like you can see in the photos here, I do intertidal research when the tide is low. I conduct aquarium experiments to find out more about the biology of certain animals. I even conduct research work underwater through diving. Yeah, and sometimes it's not our working time is not, say, very fixed. We tend to have to wake up very early in the morning when the sun isn't even out, as you can see in the bottom left photo, and all of us have like headlamps on our head, and we already start work during that time. Why do we have to do so? Because we have to catch the natural low tide. Yeah. So, but throughout my journey as a marine biologist, what takes a very important place in my heart is actually the first project that I was on when I started I started in this field as a marine biologist, and that is the conservation of giant clams in Singapore. So you see at the bottom right photo, that's me myself holding one of a very precious giant clam. This is the biggest species. This is just a baby, but it can grow to quite a large size. Yeah. Now, so now we go into wondering, what is this giant clam? So what are giant clams and why are they so special? I'm not going to go very in depth about them, because we have our 6 experts eagerly waiting to share this with you. But in a nutshell, they are the group of largest living bivalves in the world. So bivalves are soft-bodied animals that live in half shells. So half shells being like, they have 2 sides of the shell. So they are similar to like your oysters, your cockles, and even your mussels. So the giant clams are the largest group of these bivalves. Yeah, they come in all sorts of variety of sizes, colors, and patterns, as you can see in the photos that I've shown here. They're mainly found in coral reefs, shallow coral reefs. Yeah, and And they actually play many beneficial roles to the marine environment and even to us people and the society as well. So that's why they're so important, and that's why they're so special, right? So all these, we will go in depth with discussion with our 6 panelist experts. But what about them in Singapore? So giant clams can be found in all coral reefs all over the world. But what about in Singapore? So in Singapore, we actually do have giant clams. But I think most of us can say that we have not seen one, or we have yet to have the privilege to actually see one in the wild, because we don't really go out much often, yeah? So just like all of us, just like me and you, living in Singapore is very stressful, right? No, I don't mean stressful as in the giant clams need to do their exams, need to earn money for the family, that kind of stuff. But living in Singapore is very stressful for the giant clams because they are faced with a lot of different kinds of challenges in where they live, right? They get eaten, they get collected because they look pretty, right? And then in Singapore, we're very famous for development. So where do the clams live, right? Then if you look at the bottom bottom left photo, you can see this is our marine condition in the ocean right now. Like that's my colleague, and we are almost just 1 meter apart only, and I can not really see her very clearly. So these are the conditions that the clams have to survive in, right? The last photo, if some of y'all might know, this is what we call bleaching. So our pretty giant clams are now turning pale white, right? And this is mainly due to climate change. So actually living in Singapore is really very stressful, right? So what have my group been doing? And one thing that we can think about doing for the giant clams in terms of conservation is what we call mariculture. Now, mariculture is a specialized field of aquaculture. You could say farming in a way. So the numbers of giant clams around the world is very low. What we can do is try our best to give them a good environment to increase their population, increase their numbers, and put them back out into the wild. Yeah. So over here, as you can see a map of the established giant clam hatcheries at 2014. So you notice that most of them, right, are all in the tropics, right? So actually that is where all the coral reefs are and where the giant clams can be found. Yeah, and if you can see clearly, Singapore, there's one there. Yeah. Now, what do we do when we do giant clam mariculture? So our main goal for giant clam mariculture is really restocking the giant clams. So we want to breed them, have more babies, and put them back out into the sea. But first, what we have to do is we have to collect the adults, we have to collect the mothers, we have to collect the fathers, giant clams, right? So we bring them back to our facility, we look after them for a while, and then we prepare them for spawning. Now, spawning is a very exciting but laborious event that we do. We have to watch the giant clams 24 hours to make sure that they're fine and when they're ready to spawn. So giant clams, they will release their gametes into the water, and then there'll be external fertilization. As you can see here, we are looking at the quality of the eggs of the giant clams for spawning work, right? So after they have finished the first larval stage of their life, then we put them into settlement tanks where we have nice hard slabs of concrete rocks so that the little baby giant clams can sit on them and slowly grow out to what you see over here, the cultured juveniles. So they look very, very cute. They look like small little solar panels down there. Yeah. And then finally, over time, years, we will watch them as they grow out and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, the process, it takes time and a lot of hard work. Yeah, so there is a lot of hard work and dedication for our work. as a team. We do a lot of hatchery maintenance. We need to wash the clam. We need to track their growth. We need to see how much have they grown. Are they growing? We need to feed them. We need to brush them, clean them, make sure no there's no bacteria on them and stuff like that. So over here you can see the general life cycle of the giant clam. So from the eggs and sperm, they become all these larval stage, and finally the adult stage at the bottom. And this whole process takes years. So I would say it's really a lot of hard work. And I'm actually quite fortunate to be part of this team that has dedicated their time during the duration of the project to actually look after these clams. So another part of our mission was to introduce the true giants. Now the true giants meaning the very most important clam of the family, which is the Gygus tridacna. So this clam, because we have in history, we have hints of them available in Singapore. So we're trying to bring them back, and that would be amazing if we can actually see them back in our local waters. So right now, the project has ended. Most of our clams are out in the sea. You can see in the little video there's our little clam has a friend, a fish friend. Yeah. So finally, I'll end off with really what is most memorable about my work for Mariculture, and that is really meeting new people and sharing the giant clam story with all of you. Exactly like what we're going to do today, but just that today, I am very fortunate to have six brilliant young marine biologists to help me today. And we're going to mainly talk about three aspects of the giant clams. We'll talk about the biology of the giant clam, where they live, what they look like, how they eat, how they move, do they move, can they see, right? Then we'll look at ecology, like what do they do? Like why are they so important for our marine environment, for the coral reef, right? And lastly, why we have been, what have we done that has impacted the giant clam population in Singapore or maybe even around the world? And what can we do from then on in terms of conserving these animals? So without further ado, I will begin the discussion session. But before that, I would like to address the audience. So during during our discussion session, feel free to if you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the group chat, and then we'll try to integrate that into the session. Yeah. So first we look at biology, and I think we have Megan, who is very happy to share with you about what she has learned about what giant clams can do. So Megan, can you share with us what you have learned so far?
They can weigh more than 200 kg, measure as much as 120 cm across.
Yes, that is excellent. So that is what Megan you are talking about is the largest species, right? And can you imagine 120 cm? How big is that? How tall are you, Megan?
1 meter.
Wow, it's even bigger than you. Yeah. So and some of them, when they grow very big, they can actually weigh almost as much as 3 baby elephants. Yeah, that's how big giant clams can get. Yeah, so they're very massive. Yeah. Is there any more things that you learn about giant clam, Megan?
They have 4 or 5 large inward vertebral folds in their thick, heavy shells that consist of 2 valves.
Yes.
They are beautifully colored. Their mantle is usually a mixture of yellow, red, green, blue, pink, and brown. Each giant clam has its unique colors.
Yes, great. Thanks for sharing, Megan. So giant clam shells are unique. They are kind of curvy. Um, it helps with enlarging their size actually. Like what Megan said, they are also very beautiful in color, right? Especially for certain species, and they are one of the nicest, brightest members of the coral reefs. Uh, in our local reefs as well. Yeah, so maybe let's move on to Siobhan. You can share a bit about the giant clam biology.
Giant clams can be found in the Indo-Pacific region and at the shallow waters among coral reefs.
Yeah,
In Singapore, they can be found in the southern islands and like Sisters Island, Pulau Semakau, Pulau Jong, and Pulau Hantu. They can be found in coral reefs.
very good. So unfortunately for most of us, we are not able to visit the southern islands of Singapore. But I think right now, with the current situation, a lot of Singaporeans are venturing to our local offshore islands for a nice overseas holiday. Yeah. So these are actually the islands where most of our reefs are located. And unfortunately, they're not that easily accessible. It's not so easy to access these reefs. But rest assured that our clams are there, the giant clams are there. So most of us marine biologists, when we go out to look at the reefs, we do occasionally see these clams. Yeah. So in in the shallow reefs, that's where the giant clams are mainly found. Um, and just to ask this question, how many species of giant clams are there um, in the reef?
There are 12 species.
Excellent, Siobhan. So in the whole world, there is actually 12 species of giant clams. Yeah, and actually we have 5 of them in Singapore, at least recorded to be in Singapore. So any other things the panelists have to share with us about the biology of giant clams? Let's see.
Uh,
Who? Who would like to share? Valerie?
Giant clams can live up to 100 years, and they can weigh up to 250 kg.
Yeah. So not only are they big, they can also live for very, very long. Yeah. And it's also and also because they can live for so long, that's why they can get to that size. So so far recorded wise, the longest living giant clams are about 100 years or more. But right now, they are very rare. Very hard to find such old clams. They're a bit like trees. Yeah. So anybody else have stuff to talk about giant clams? Where they do they move? Can they see? I see Dawisha has something to say.
Can I talk about their diet?
Sure.
Okay, giant clams achieve their enormous proportions by consuming the sugars and proteins produced by the billions of algae that live in their tissue. Is that right?
Yes. Do you know what's the name of this algae? Okay. So this so just like corals, giant clams have this algae that live in their tissue. So this algae is called zooxanthellae. For short, we just call them zooks. Yeah. So these little algae, they stay in the giant clam, and they provide the clams with food. I see Luke raise his hand. So Luke, do you have anything to add on to this?
I can add on to how they feed and why are they important.
Sure, add on. Go ahead.
Okay, so giant clams are filter feeders, meaning that they feed by opening their valves to expose their mantle, and their mantle is the fold of skin that encloses the internal organs.
Okay.
Large volumes of water, including algae and microorganisms, enter their gills. And why are they important? Because by doing so, they help to clean the coral reefs of a lot of algae, as 50% of algae taken in is ingested.
Amazing. So what Dawisha and what Luke has shared so far, you realize that the giant clam has two different ways of getting food. Yeah. So Luke has shared that they are filter feeders. So in a way, you can say like they are vacuum cleaners of the sea. Yeah. So they suck in all the nice juicy stuff and eat them up. And in the case of Dawisha, she shared that they have this relationship with the algae that stays in their tissue. So this is something very special for this bivalve, and not all clams have this feature actually to obtain food in two different modes. So one is like a solar panel, one is through photosynthesis, where the algae photosynthesize and provides the clam with food. And then the other one is like a vacuum cleaner, where the clam sucks in all the nice nutritious stuff in the sea. And maybe, just maybe, it's because of this that is why the clams can actually gain so much nutrition and energy to actually grow to such a size. Yeah. Olivia, do you have anything to add to, aside from maybe diet? Like, do you think the clams can move?
I learned that giant clams get only one chance to find a nice home, and once they fasten themselves to a spot in a reef, they stay there for life.
Okay, that is very interesting question to ask. So about their movement, and Olivia has kind of given you a rough idea of what the life of a giant clam is. Quite boring, I would say, but still, it's quite interesting when they are actually very young. So a giant clam, they don't start off as a big, enormous 1 meter size giant, massive giant. Yeah. So they always start small. So small that even your eye might not be able to see them. You will need the help of a microscope, right? So during those young stages, they can actually swim, right? So they swim in the water column. They find a nice patch of reef. Hey, this looks like a nice place to stay. So they'll head down to the reef. They will find a place to land, and then they will change. They'll change into a smaller version of themselves, right? And as a small version, they're so small, so they can actually crawl around. And like what Livia said, they crawl until they find a suitable place, and then they just sit there and they grow and grow and grow and grow. Yeah. So until they reach massive sizes. Yeah. So an interesting question comes in from the chat. Someone has asked, Tiana has asked, can clams survive in fresh water? So does any of the panelists know the answer to this question? Or just try to answer it?
Megan, would you like to try?
Let me see. Yeah. Megan, would you like to try? Just say yes or no.
How about Valerie or Liu?
I think Megan answered, but I think she's mute. So Megan, is it yes or no?
No.
Very good. So that is the correct answer for that question. So clams, especially giant clams, they cannot survive in fresh water. They are strictly marine, so they can only be found in seawater, salt water. Yeah. So now we move on to the second part of discussion with the giant clams, and I think it's the most important part, as in why are giant clams so important for our environment? So maybe to start off this discussion and sharing, let's have Livia share about why the giant clams are so important to our environment. Unmute.
Livia, can you please
Livia?
unmute yourself? Yeah.
Hi, Livia.
Hi.
Yeah. So why do you think that giant clams are important? What have you found out about giant clams and why are they so important to the environment?
They help to house algae, some types of algae in them.
Mhm. Okay, so this is related to what Darwisha has shared previously about their feeding method. So they house certain algae in their flesh, right? And this algae actually jumps around from different organisms, not just giant clams. They also jump into corals as well. So during like stressful times when there's coral bleaching, right? These algae can kind of hop over and save this other animal and stuff like that. Darwisha, you have something to add on? Yes, go ahead.
Giant clams serve as nurseries and refuges for fish on the reef as well, right?
Yes. So all the things that all the issues that all the points brought up by the panelists so far is what we call reef building. So giant clams help to build the reef, right?
Maybe Amber can let Valerie to add on whether she wants to say anything about reef building. Valerie?
Sure, definitely.
Okay. Valerie, can you please unmute yourself and add on anything you know about reef building?
They usually like cement themselves onto like flat reefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they cement themselves into flat reefs, but then do you know if they can help with how the reef looks, how the reef grows? Because you know their shell so big, right?
It gives more space and makes it
Yes.
more colorful.
Yeah. So like I think who was it that shared about the shell? I think it was Siobhan that shared about the shell. Yeah. So the shell is actually very big, can grow very big, and because it's hard, so sometimes you will see things growing on the giant clam shell while the giant clam is there. So the giant clam actually provides more space, like what Valerie said, for a lot of other organisms like corals and even other giant clams also. Yeah. Any more things to add from the panelists? Luke?
This is just an assumption because based on my research on the predators, the giant clams could also be a source of food for the smaller marine life because in case they are unable to find their own food because giant clams don't move around, they stay there. So they are a permanent source of food.
You are not wrong actually. So that's a very good assumption that you make. I think you will be a very good scientist in the future. So for giant clams, right? Like what Luke has shared, they are a potential source of food for not just humans, right? But for a lot of every other organisms in the water. So when the giant clams filter feed, there are things that the giant clams doesn't eat and they will throw back out into the water. But in the form of what we call fecal pellets, it's a bit like the feces of other animals. And these are actually food sources for a lot of other marine animals like fish and other snails, stuff like that. So they also house a lot of algae, right? So animals feed on that as well. when they are breeding, when they're releasing their eggs into the water, right? Other animals can also eat these eggs and stuff in the water. So they are actually really like a warehouse of food, I would say, for maybe the region, for that particular location. Yeah. Now, so we have talked about reef building, providing food. There's other things. Yeah.
But I think Siobhan has raised her hand. We let her say
Okay.
something.
Yeah, Siobhan. Please say something. Wow, thanks, Cheryl. I can't really see everybody's hands.
If there are a lot of giant clams near a Pacific coral reef, then that means the coral reef is healthy.
Excellent. that is what we call indicator species, right? So they are like the signboards of like, hey, we are here. This reef is good. Come stay here. Yeah. So we would definitely want to see a lot more giant clams in our reefs, but unfortunately, because of a lot of impacts that we have done to the ecosystem and the marine habitat, we don't see them anymore, or we don't see so many of them anymore. Which brings us to our next topic about giant clams, on human impact. Like what have humans done to the marine environment and affected the population of giant clams right now? So to start that off, maybe Megan, do you have can you share with us what you think has affected the giant clams that they cannot survive anymore? Wait, you need to unmute first, yeah? Okay. Hello? Yeah.
People
Megan.
collect giant clams because of their meat and because they look very attractive.
Yeah. So people like pretty things, right? And people like big things. When you go to a shop full of candy, you always go to take the biggest candy first, right? So the first thing people always take is the largest things from the ocean because they can see them, they're big, and also because they're pretty. So Megan did bring up a very good point. So it's the most I would say the most important point in terms of giant clams for Singapore. Why do I say so? It's because in the past, when we were still a fishing village, a lot of us rely on the ocean for our food, right? So a lot of us, all the early villagers, they will be diving into the sea, collecting anything they find that they can eat from the sea and they can use from the sea. Yeah. So Megan, from your research about this, right? Do you know how people have been using the giant clams aside from food?
No.
Okay, it's fine. Any of the other panelists know, aside from food and collecting for trade, I mean for as a pet? Okay, Siobhan.
They can use the shell and carve out things like ornaments or jewelry.
Very good. So this is something very I would say it's happening now, right? So a lot of people are collecting the shells to do art, to carve them into nice figurines, nice jewelry, right? So people like pretty things, as we say, right? So and they're so
Maybe
big, you know, their shell is
sorry,
so big. Yeah.
Sorry, maybe Valerie, do you have anything to add on? What else do people do that will have an impact on the giant clams?
They take the giant clam shells and they carve like things out of it, and that like endangers the species because there'll be less and less adults that can reproduce and continue the species of the giant clam.
Okay. Maybe we
Livia, you
can
have
let the
anything
other
to add on?
panels. Yeah. Livia? Livia?
Since giant clams are endangered, so they are rare. Many people try to use them because they'll be expensive since since they are rare. So they sell their shells for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Dawisha raised her hand.
Okay, Dawisha, go ahead.
I did some research and I found out that giant clams are indeed known to produce pearls, but only a few are recognized by genealogists. So is it true that they actually really produce pearls like oyster?
Hey, so for the other panelists, have you all come across anything in your research about giant clam and pearls that you would like to share as well? Yeah, Siobhan.
The giant clam pearls are very rare. They are not like round and small like the oysters, but big and irregular shape.
Great. So I think Siobhan has shared a bit about a very interesting thing about pearls. Yeah, so giant clams, pearls don't really come from giant clams, they come from oysters. Yeah. So for giant clam, yes, what Siobhan said is true. It's actually very rare to find a pearl in the giant clam. And if you look at it, it doesn't look like what you think a pearl would look like. Yeah.
Do other panelists have anything to add about your research about pearls and giant clams? Megan, anything you want to say about pearls and giant clam? No. Okay, Liu.
Well, I have some more things, but it's taxonomy and can get very confusing.
Just bring it up.
Okay. I have I have a glossary as well in case, but just start with the class. The giant clams class is bivalve. I'm not very sure whether I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's a class of marine and freshwater mollusks that have laterally compressed bodies enclosed by a shell consisting of two hinged parts or just two shell parts. Its subclass is, again, I may be pronouncing this wrongly, Heterodonta, and it is a taxonomic subclass of saltwater clams or marine bivalve mollusks. They include edible clams and venus clams.
Great. So I think what, Luke, you have been touching on is actually how us scientists name things, how we classify things. You know, we humans, we love to collect things, and then we love to give them names and then characterize and then link them together and see, oh, you are from here, you're from there, that kind of things, right? So the two names that you have brought up, bivalves, the class bivalves, is very specific to clams, right? Like you have shared as well, two halves. The easiest way to show everybody is really even clams that you might be familiar with, like I've shared just now, like your oysters, your mussels, your cockles, and what Luke said, your Venus clams. Like for you, if you were to go to the market or to the hawker center, what they call lala. Yeah. So these are your Venus clams. Now the next name that you talk about is can you say that again, Liu? Try to pronounce it.
Heterodonta again.
Yeah, heterodonta. Very good. So heterodonta. Hetero kinds of means different, and donta is teeth. So this is talking mainly about the shell, the hinge part, and how it looks like. So I won't go too in depth about this because maybe we'll have another session. Yeah, but when scientists name these animals, we usually first start by looking at how they look like. Yeah, a lot of different structural features, and then we start naming them. Yeah. Okay. So I'm very happy that today we have quite a lot of nice inputs from all the 6 excellent panelists today. I feel that 1 hour about talking about giant clams is not enough, especially with 6 of you here. And it would definitely be more exciting if we were actually to meet in person and talk about this topic. But regardless, this is still a very good platform. I would like to end off the discussion session with a bit of, to share with you a bit of what I personally feel would be beneficial for the giant clams, and what all of you could actually take back, maybe take a, maybe learn a bit about it and understand how you can help with conservation of the giant clams. So let me do a quick share screen. Give me a moment. Okay. Okay, can you all see my screen? So conservation for you, and what can you do to protect the giant clams? Really, we just summarize it in these 4 short phrases. Knowledge is key. I believe our 6 panelists has done a great example about this with all the research that they have done and all the knowledge they have gained by just searching about these giant clams. Yeah. So from all the knowledge that you have gained, you can be aware and responsible for the actions that you take, right? Before you do anything, think before you act. Will this affect the, will what you do affect the natural environment? So this is not just for giant clams itself, right? With your friends, with your family, with your teachers, and everybody else. Yeah. So with that, I will close off by saying a big thank you from our Giant Clam team, right? Our Giant Clam team. So these are the people that have been working tirelessly for the Giant Clams. And can I also get everyone to put a round of applause for all the 6 excellent, brilliant, young giant clam experts we have here today. You can physically clap in your screen, or you can do the reaction button with the clap. Yeah, it's so sorry that all of you cannot hear, but I'll clap for you. So I think this session is really amazing. All 6 of you have done really good job. Right? Very, very impressed. So now I would love to continue talking to all of you. Yeah. So I'll hand over back to Cheryl. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ambert.
To end off the session. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, Ambert. Okay, let me share screen. Okay, so just now we were talking about the giant clams. Okay, next. All right, now before we close, let me tell you a little bit about our Marine Conservation Group. Our MCG is a special interest group of the Nature Society, or NSS. Okay, it was formed in 1985 with the aims to encourage understanding and protection of marine nature in Singapore and Southeast Asia. So our MCG supports the society's activity, advocacy, and outreach functions, and delivers scientific data needed for the conservation and management of our marine and coastal resources. Now, the group's activities are focused on limiting anthropogenic threats, that is the human threats, to the marine ecosystems. The MCG conservation projects include endangered species monitoring and ground-up governance initiatives. Okay, then now do join us as a member, all right, today. For families with young children, NSS has family membership. So you want to find out more about NSS membership, you may email or call us. All right, the email address, our society address is below, the website is below. Also, the email contact is here. Okay. Now, so as a member, we have lots of interesting activities. So members enjoy the range of activities such as guided nature wildlife case and always eco trips and many more. So and volunteering opportunities and involvement in various environmental conservation projects. Okay. Okay, now, so finally, thank you for joining us today at the Young Marine Biologist session. And what you see here is our social media site. You can find us there or even contact us there. So for our audience, if you have questions, you may actually put into the chat. Then we see if we can answer it for you. And then for our young panelists, if you have any questions for us or for Ambert, you can put into our chat group as well. Okay, so I would say thank you so much today for joining us. Thank you, Ambert. Thank you all the 6 young panelists.
Oh, yeah. before we end, right? Maybe Cheryl, you can stop the share screen. And can I ask all the audience to turn on their video so that we can take a nice virtual photo with everybody to commemorate the best session in this week. Yeah, I think Lisa, you will help with that, right?
I'm gonna take, so everyone smile, say cheese. Just one more, just in case.
We have to take, I think, 2 screens.
There's 2 screens, is it?
Yeah, because I think not enough 1 screen, so we have to move to the 2nd screen and take another one.
Okay.
Everyone just say cheese. Okay, very cute.
Okay, then take another one. One more.
Okay.
In?
Yes.
Nice.
Done.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed today. And yes, we have got like three more session all the way to this Friday. So join us again. All right. Okay. Get your parents to sign up, and then we are registered, and then we will give you the link. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.